is, are they going to split Nigeria into 4 places? That is the main issue now. That is what is happening. Hello, my country people. This is your boy, Gossip TV Live and Direct. My brother, I want to shortalize you. I want to tell you the current and the correct news, the thing that is popular now. In fact, if you are seeing this video, share, help me, do share. Do you know the reason why the federal government is telling you that the IPOP is the reason? In fact, they are the one engineering this genocide in the north. Do you know the reason why? Don't worry, calm down. It's obvious that during the time Nnamdi saw what is happening, he called on the United Nations bring to their notice about the genocide that is going on in the north. How the Boko Haram, ISWAP, and other terrorist group is destroying, even the Mietiala, destroying, killing. And that is the reason why Nnamdi established Eastern Security Network to safeguard the Eastern region, because he have already seen the terrain, how they are going, how the federal government is sponsoring them, pushing them, how they are coming into the east. So that is the reason why. Haven't Amateku established their own in the west, so they have to establish in the east. So, nevertheless, look, let me tell you, the chief of staff of Trump, I told you people last time, Susie White, is the legal chamber that Nnamdi used in lobbying about the Biafra referendum, IPOP, and the freedom of Biafra. So this woman is currently now the chief of staff to the Donald Trump. Now, Ted Cruz, the senator that is championing this genocide, this Simon Ekpa team went and met him. In fact, they met him last year. They lobbied him and bringing to your notice. In fact, it's in public domain. They lobbied him about this Biafra referendum and freedom. See the two things. See how this thing is working. The chief of staff of Donald Trump is working now with the Senate, Ted Cruz, who have been lobbying by the Simon Ekpa team. The chief of staff is being lobbied by the IPOB Nnamdi. These two teams already have come together. Ted Cruz and Susie White, they already come together. They push all this agenda to Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump, not only that he wants to send military in the north, he already strategized his plan about the Biafra referendum. This is for sure. I'm telling you, this is a current news, how it's happening in America now. There is a strategy, map out. That is, in fact, that is a step-by-step. The thing that American government have put in place to make sure that Biafra exits from Nigeria. And is going to shape. They are contemplating if they are going to pieces Nigeria into 3 places or 4. That is the issue on the ground now. They are contemplating, is it Biafra to go and leave others, or are they going to split Nigeria into 4 places? That is the bone of contention in America now. The question is not if Biafra will go. No. The question is, are they going to split Nigeria into 4 places? That is the main issue now. That is what is happening. So if Biafra is going, Biafra will go sooner than later. I want you to put your hand in this share button. Share. Let it go viral. In fact, do me a favor. Do share. Everything concerning the Cruz, Susie White, IPOP, Nnamdi, Simon Ekpa, and Trump. Everything, all the news that is coming to our table, I will be bringing it to you back to back. All you need to do is just to do me a favor. Like, share, comment. Let this video go viral.
All right, guys, so welcome to my channel. Guys, so a lot of the countries around the world is now beginning to intervene in the case of Nnamdi, all right? But more especially, the Kenyan government is now coming out in full to actually react to what the Nigerian government is doing with Nnamdi. And I want you guys to pay attention to everything that's going to happen in this particular video and everything that is discussed in the process. And please, just in case you're first time you're meeting us, please do also to subscribe and then turn on the post notification bell for more updates from this channel. As the news is already circulating that on the 20th, Nnamdi judgment is going to take a different shape. So maybe that's the reason why the country, or all other countries around the world, is now beginning to chook mouth to also talk in favor of Nnamdi Kanu because the injustice has now come to the level where other people needs to intervene. All right, Nnamdi Kanu must not go to jail, and Nnamdi Kanu must not be sentenced. All right, so let's pay attention to everything that happens in this particular video, and I'll be right back.
Officers in uniform who engage in criminal activity instead of protecting citizens must be brought to book, held to account decisively, efficiently, so that we can restore the confidence of citizens in our security apparatus.
Kenya, of course, to complete the circle, is also problematic. It is in this country that Nnamdi Kanu was abducted, and I acted for Nnamdi Kanu, and we have gotten a judgment in his favor. The government has been condemned to pay 10 million and taken to Nigeria. Kizza Besigye was abducted. It cannot be right. If you look at international law, rendition is something that we should not allow. People should be allowed to exercise their democratic rights, even if we don't agree with them. So you see, there is a crisis. We are signatories to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. We are signatories to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and all the UN charters. Why do we create an environment where people who don't agree with us become our enemies? It is a competition of ideas, so that what is happening in this region is that fear is being used by those in political leadership as an instrument of paralyzing the population into silence.
Will the population agree to that when you look at it?
History is consistent that you can only paralyze a population for so long. The things that we see, for example, that we saw in the Arab Spring that brought down governments, what we have seen in the streets of Africa, it started in Nairobi, Kenya. It did not go the full length. We saw it in Cameroon. It did not go the full length. We saw it in Abidjan. It did not go the full length. We saw it in Dar es Salaam. It did not go the full length. It went the full length in Madagascar. It went the full length in Bangladesh. It went the full length in Nepal. Demonstration and protest is the language of the unheard. And wisdom has always required and demanded at once that you listen to people, because you are trustee to hold public office. Why do we call people in public office honorable? It is not because of them. It is the office that we honor. Why do we call them excellencies? They are not, or may not even be excellent. Many times in Africa they are not. But it is the institution, the offices that they hold for the sake of the nation. When they begin to think that they are demigods, they must remember there was a French Revolution. They must remember that there was the Turkish revolt. They must remember that people rose the student protests in 1960s in Europe. They must remember that the colonialist was here and they left. And the sooner they do so, they must remember that recently Bashar al-Assad left for Moscow with a suitcase. They must remember that Rajuel in Madagascar disappeared. We do not know where they are. They must remember that Sheikh Hasina is hiding. Nobody knows where she is.
When we get to a point, and it's very interesting, you give live scenarios that we're experiencing now, but then on the other hand, you look at it, when our citizens, Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo, had been missing for 38 days, then they are released. And then on the same day, the president of Uganda confesses that we arrested them because I was told they are expert rioters, and I kept them in a fridge. Of course, yesterday we see the PS Singwei saying it was metaphorical for him to use that. But when a president confesses to arrest other citizens, yet the foreign affairs of Kenya doesn't seem like
You know, I know both Njagi, I know Oyo. These are young men who mean well. They mean well. They feel pain for Kenya. They feel pain for humanity. They feel pain for the black man. When they went to Uganda, they were showing solidarity with one of the candidates. It is their right to do so. Of course, it is always wise to remember that when you're in a foreign country, the rules may be different. But when a national of a country is detained by a sister or brother country, it is incumbent upon that country's foreign affairs to be involved. You know, when I see the headlines of the Standard newspaper on the 13th day of November 2025 saying, we need diplomacy, you cannot contradict them. You cannot contradict them. Why do we have an embassy in Uganda? Did we see any attempt at negotiation? Did we see? We did not. It is important that we take care of our citizens wherever they are, even when they are in trouble, particularly when they are in trouble. We had surrendered to the situation. If it had happened that it is their dead bodies that were delivered, our country would just have said, hey, voila.
Let me put this perspective very straight. Nnamdi Kanu has not been convicted of any crime of terrorism or for terrorism in Nigeria by any Nigerian court. He has also not been convicted by any foreign court for terrorism. So it will be sad and uncharitable when he begins to describe him as a terrorist. The administration which that young man said, that is the Buhari administration, when a number of elders from the southeast and where many Nigerians were appealing to Buhari to release Nnamdi Kanu, he made a statement. He said that let the judiciary and the courts decide Nnamdi Kanu's fate. That was Buhari, late Buhari. Now, during his time, the judiciary decided the fate of Nnamdi Kanu. The rule of law decided the fate of Nnamdi Kanu. For instance, Umuahia Federal High Court gave a verdict in favor of Nnamdi Kanu. The Court of Appeal affirmed another decision favoring Nnamdi Kanu and asking that he be released. That is extraordinary rendition from Kenya or anywhere to Nigeria was illegal. And based on that, he should be released. The ECOWAS courts also added their voices. The United Nations People's Court also added their voices. African Charter of Human Rights also added their voices. These are, organs and institutions that enhances the rule of law. Buhari never heeded such calls, as the case may be. Now, for the former PA or assistant to not term Nnamdi Kanu a terrorist, that you cannot, it's like he's forcing on Nnamdi Kanu a fair to comply. And he has already found him guilty, even when the Nigerian court has found him guilty. That is something I cannot really begin to understand. And for him to now compare the situation of Nnamdi Kanu to Boko Haram, it's sickening and nauseating. Because the Boko Haram variant of terrorism is akin to that of Al-Qaeda. We don't really know whether that the religious, philosophy struggle that they are into, whether they are into economic or I don't think so. Nnamdi Kanu is not in that Qaeda. So it is a misconception, an uncharitable word for that man to now compare both situations. That Nnamdi Kanu is a terrorist. I really cannot fathom it out. It's so sad. Now, even as it is, IPOB that was prescribed, there are matters in court about the prescription of IPOB. Until and unless Those matters are decided in court. It cannot be said or said, legally speaking, that IPOB is a proscribed organization. I'm not trying to, maybe support them as the case may be, but let us follow legalists and what the legal, authorities have said in Nigeria here. So it's unfortunate. And now coming to what Femi Falana has advocated, that let this be settled out of the courtroom. I quite agree with, Femi Falana's, assertion and postulation on the release that a political solution will be the best way to resolve this Nnamdi Kanu. Stop this particular court, whatever that we have. The AG of the Federation has powers under the Constitution to continue, discontinue, as the case may be, even when trials continue. He has the right to do that. You can do it. Why not use those kind of verbs open to you and the government, and let's see if we can come to a round table and do what? Negotiate. I am saying this finally, not because of the fact that I am putting pressure on the government, or maybe I'm trying to echo views of others that are just within Nigeria here. In Turkey, there's a particular man, a young man called Ocalan. It's the same situation he found himself in Turkey. The PKK, etc., as the case may be. He's their leader. Unfortunately, he was also extradited from Kenya, this same Kenya, to Turkey. The same way Nnamdi Kanu was, extradited back to Nigeria. A lot of things went under the ground. He's still there for close to 2 decades in detention. But right now, as I speak with you, the PKK, under the leadership of Ocalan and the Turkish government, have found out that the courts may not be able to solve this problem. So let us see if we can get a political solution. And that is why he told, when he saw the genuineness of the aspirations of government, he gathered his followers and said that we have used all means to achieve what we want, violent ones for that matter. They have not worked. Now is the time for ideas to speak. Let us see and negotiate with government for my release and see how PKK and my own agitations, can be cubicle into these particular negotiations. And there's already peace in that area of Turkey today. I ask that the Ocalan situation should be adopted in Nnamdi Kanu situation. Let government leave this, their egotistic pride, and begin to come and negotiate, or maybe talk with Nnamdi Kanu. That's my opinion.
And
thank you very much. Let political solution be used.
Thank you very much, Barrister Steve Adams.
Kikabiama is in control of all that we have been doing and will continue to do until Biafra is restored and all the suffering indigenous populations and the damnable zoological republic are set free. Chineke nna nke pụrụ ihe niile Chukwu okike abịa gbanye na-efewe n'aja aha nsọ ya mma mgbe niile. Onye ọbụla na ya na-achị eluigwe n'ụwa na-agba akaebe ịhụnanya gị na ebere gị amara gị na ọmịiko gị ebe ndị gị na-eze ebe dị ngọzi. Anyị wee na-etoghị agbanyeghị atụmatụ ọjọọ niile nke ndị iro, iwe nye anyị ndụ ala nke dị n'uwere n'ụbọchị nke taa. Anyị wee na-asị na ịja mma niile otu niile dịrị aha nsọ gị. Onye ọbụla na ya ka ikiri nọ n'ọbadara aka ya. Anyị wee na-akpọku gị na-asị gị na nke ọma anyị ga-ekele gị, nke ọjọọ ma anyị kelee gị. Anyị wee na-aja gị mma, wee na-eto gị, wee na-asọpụrụ gị n'isi ụmụ gị niile bụ ndị ikwu ndị wee eziokwu mgbe a kpọrọ ha ka ha wee chekwaa ala nsọ gị bụ Biafra onye nwe na Chineke na ihe ndị kwuru anyị nkwa na o mekataghị ka ndị iro wee were ala nsọ Biafra onye nwe na Chineke na nke bi n'igwe. Agbanyeghị atụmatụ ọjọọ niile nke ndị iro ma ndị na-agba mgbọgba ebe niile dị iche iche onye nwe na Chineke nna ihere bụ nke ndị dị etu a n'ụbọchị nke taa. Anyị wee na-eto gị, wee na-asị onye nwe anyị na Chineke nna nke pụrụ m ihe niile, onye ọ bụ naanị ya na-azọpụta, onye ọ bụ naanị ya bụ okwu ya niile bụ ihe na amen. Anyị wee na-asị ezi ebube dị ngọzi na ọtụtụ na-eja mma na nsọpụrụ site n'ebighị ebi ma ruo n'ebighị ebi. Ise ise ise.
Providence and ready to lay it down for the cause of Biafra and salvation of humanity, that we are diligently to work while it is yet day, so that when the call comes down to lay down our souls, we may be found ready to enter into the kingdom of Ji Uku Okike Abiyama, God Almighty, where in his light we shall see light. We remember the fallen of our Biafran armed services. We remember the victims of terror and tragedy. We remember the millions of defenseless women, men and children gone to the markets, strapped to their death in schools and hospitals by Soviet MiGs and piloted by Egyptians. We remember Warrant Officer 1, Elijah Anosike, Staff Sergeant Ewon Ejiogo, Warrant Officer 2, Ndarake Uya, Staff Sergeant Davidson Njoku, Staff Sergeant Sylvanus Ezeku, Sergeant Evan Jim Udo, Corporal Pius DK, Corporal Michael Agwu DK, Corporal Johnson Agwu, Lance Corporal Gabriel Okezi, Sergeant Mbenefo Lawrence Ofuru, Sergeant John Ukeje, Sergeant Major Albert Ogumba, Sergeant Henson Obaji, Sergeant Emmanuel Ochi, Sergeant Peter Ejimako, Sergeant Nana Otueche, Sergeant Morris Abeli, Sergeant Peter Mbisi, Sergeant Obed Adinu. Using a lighted candle